Both the underground Knights Templar and the legitimate Knights of Malta continued their piracy on the high seas, and even in the Americas. It is surprising that the role of these religious military orders in the French settlements of the Americas largely remains secret. The Knights in America, the Knights of Malta, which is active today, was influential in the settlement of Canada, in early colonization of the New World, and even in the American Revolution. In 1632 a Knight of Malta, Commander Isaac de Razilly, organized the expedition to Acadia in Quebec. History records Samuel de Champlain as one of the earliest explorers, but pays little attention to his top lieutenants, Marc-Antoine Brasdiford de Chateaufourt and Charles-Jacques Huot de Montmagny. After Champlain's death, Chateaufourt and then Montmagny served as go-brothers to pirates and corsairs 45 north of New France. Other French-Canadian knights would also play significant roles in the early history of Canada. The counterpart of the Knights of Malta in France was the Order of Saint Sulpice. Founded by the Abbé Jacques Collier, the order invited wealthy patrons to form another group, the Society of Notre Dame, which would in turn become the founding Seigneurs of Montreal in Canada. Serving the same role as the Cistercians in relation to the Knights Templar, the Order of Saint Sulpice at times played a very powerful behind-the-scenes role in international affairs. Unhampered by the vow of poverty, the order grew in wealth and power. Many of Montreal's streets, named for luminaries of the Sulpicians, remind citizens of the order's key position. In the 1660s, when the overlords of Montreal, the so-called 100 Associates, proved themselves to be absentee landlords inclined to tax the city, the Sulpicians had them expelled, and took over the governance of Montreal. To their credit, their wealth has been committed to good works, and the order remains as wealthy today as it was 3 centuries ago. In France the order also remains wealthy, powerful, and able to play a political role from backstage. The Knights of Malta also colonized the Caribbean, including Tortuga, St. Croix, and St. Barthélemy Islands, that later passed into the ownership of the French West India Company. Another knight, Admiral François-Joseph Paul de Grez, delivered the coup de grâce to the British at Yorktown. His fleet arrived from the Caribbean just in time to trap Cornwallis and the British Army, who were in full retreat. The British, waiting for reinforcements and supplies that would never arrive, surrendered to George Washington and ended the war. The Admiral was a Knight of Malta, and he learned his seamanship skills under the tutelage of the order. Of the French ships that battled the British, several were commanded by members of the Knights of Malta, including Admiral de Grasse's Shift Escadron at Chesapeake Bay, Jean-Louis Charles de Corrales d'Espinous. After the war, 14 of the 20 elite Knights of Malta who fought for the American cause became members of the Society of the 46 Piracy. A merry and a short life. Cincinnati, a closed group formed by George Washington for his officers. 13 Despite criticism that the order was a version of European aristocracy, membership was limited to a handful and future membership required that an individual be a descendant of a member of the founding group. The French Revolution and the subsequent Napoleonic Wars saw the Knights of Malta defeated in battle. Napoleon seized the home base of Malta in 1789, because the French Knights had provided Louis XVI, his rival, with funding. The Russians offered the Knights refuge, and asked them to create a new order that would answer to him. Napoleon immediately ended the order's income from its French property, and evicted the Knights, forcing them into a brief sojourn in Russia. In 1834 the order moved again to Rome, and came under papal protection. The Pope restored the office of Grand Master in 1879. The order slowly rebuilt itself in the 20th century. The Knights of Malta order survived, and grew to the point that it became a very powerful, albeit secretive, force in modern world politics. In 1921 it had 200 knights, and 1,800 members of all grades. 14 Today the group is headquartered at Palazzo Malta on the Via Condotti in Rome, and it has a worldwide network of 9,000 knights and thousands more lower grade members. 15 It is the most elite of the Catholic orders, and although it remains behind the scenes, it has great power. While the Knights of Malta does not own any property outside Rome, the order is recognized as a sovereign state, complete with its own passports and stamps. The European press often regards the order as an old boys' club for aristocrats, but it is actually active on several continents in both charitable works and political action. In the United States, a branch of the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, SMOM, was started in 1927, under the leadership of New York's Cardinal Spellman. Since its founding, the group has included the likes of Joseph Kennedy, Joseph Grace of W.R. Grace, and presidents of companies such as General Motors and United States Steel. The SMOM has an influence in politics, and has taken activist roles from its earliest days, starting with opposition to the New Deal of Brothers to Pirates and Corsairs 47 Roosevelt. In post-World War II politics, the group has always leaned to the right, sometimes to the extreme. In supporting the right wing, the SMOM has not shied away even from assisting Nazi war criminals. After World War II, the order granted its highest honor to German Army General Reinhard Gehlen, which might sound shocking, but is nonetheless in line with supporting a monarchist agenda. Although the Sovereign Military Order of Malta does nothing to hide its existence or membership, and does little to disguise its right-wing political agenda, it receives almost no recognition in post-Crusades history texts. The rival Order of the Knights Templar, however, is a much more secretive entity. Because it is forced to stay underground, the order goes to great lengths to conceal its existence and membership, and to disguise its activities. Nevertheless, it has survived. The Americas presented great opportunity to the remnant Templar factions. For many of the rank and file, the new lands represented a place to survive the religious wars and start a new life. Jacobin Catholics from Scotland, Huguenots, and Catholics from France, and various dissenters from England found peace and brotherhood in the Americas. And the wealthy who had found power in the changing feudal hierarchy of the old order also found new types of power in the Americas. A handful of these people pulled the strings, and enjoyed the fruits of criminal activity from their secret positions. Chapter 3 Under a Black Flag Execution by Hanging was a gruesome affair in the days of Captain Kidd, and for the convicted pirate there was no reprieve. In the city in which Kidd had lived, while attempting to secure his privateering commission, he undoubtedly passed the execution docket whopping numerous times.